Making sure everything's on. Pick it up from where we left off with the Pulse of Tahar as he was looking into this video. Now going back to the original. As you know, it's coming upon us, and it's a simulation of what it's going to look like without one. Without a digital ID, without the RFID implant, you know. What it's going to be like, you know, aka the times of trouble, which we said we'd be exempt from. Doesn't mean we're exempt from the ramifications, but like everything else, we will not be tempted to go and get it, because we already know the repercussions of taking the MOTB, the implantable microchip, you know. So getting back to this, you know, we're constantly warning you not to take it, you know, not to take the implant, but you can't say when it comes to pass that we didn't warn you. You know, you'll have no excuses, because here at Great Millstone, we've done nothing but warn you not to take the implantable microchip, which is the mark of the beast.
Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Malachat, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the Great Millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations. And to the full tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Now I was got to show this video, and this is a AI-generated simulation of basically what it would be or look like when they finally announce the MOTB. And this is why, you know, the exhortation been going out for years to, you know, detach yourself, you know, from this world. You know, of course, you know, make sure that your faith is built up where it needs to be, because it is going to be put to the test. All right, and like Yahushua said, you know, he that shall save his life shall lose it, but he that'll lose his life for the Lord's sake will gain it eternal. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna just play this video clip, and then I'll get a couple precepts, and then we'll close out. But you know, I thought this was a good display right here. So without further ado, let's look.
It's a historic step forward in our national security. Let's go live to reporter Sarah Martinez at the registration center downtown.
More than 50,000 people have come here this morning to register. This is the future of secure identification, linking identity, healthcare, and payments in one verified system.
And that's exactly what Bill Gates just announced. This is pretty much the agenda. They're you know, building stepping stones, if you will, towards this particular agenda. And this is all for the fulfillment of prophecy. All right.
Yeah, Obamacare bill had a lot of it in there too.
When the mark of the beast is introduced, countries will present it as a matter of national security. Every financial institution, from the banks, hospital, and even supermarkets, will state that it is a requirement that you have the mark.
I'm sorry, but without the mark, we can no...
Yeah, they're not going to require you to have a philosophy. You know, it's a philosophy, or it's Christianity. You know, it's an embargo. And none of that makes sense. So if you still listening to these false leaders, these false Israelite teachers, you know, you're going to end up taking it, man. Okay? You're just going to end up taking it.
Longer provide you access.
Banks won't allow you to access any funds without it. And supermarkets won't allow you to purchase any goods without it.
You'll need to get registered before you can shop here, sir.
Hospitals won't treat any patient who hasn't been marked.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We can't proceed without your digital mark.
The mark of the beast won't be branded as evil. No, the mark will be incentivized. Early takers will be offered discounts and access to products and services. Then, gradually, those benefits will be exclusive, only to be available for the marked. They'll call it modern convenience. You'll call it a small price to pay, until the day you can't eat without it. Can't travel.
Reminder, all riders must verify digital identity before boarding.
Can't breathe in society.
I'm sorry, sir. We can't proceed without verification.
Unless you bear the symbol. You see, when the mark of the beast is introduced, the Antichrist will make life without it so difficult that many...
And that's just, you know, of course, you know, the narrator is probably Christian. You know, it's AI generated, so it's going based off of a Christian perspective. But we know that the anti-Messiah system is really the beast system. You know, and it's not. It doesn't just comprise of one individual. Right? It's an entity. All right, which encapsulates through this global governmental system, primarily with the European Union, NATO, and America. That's the beast system, okay? And they're going to enforce it, throughout their regions, and everybody's going to have to, jump aboard.
Will simply cave into the pressure. People will feel the pressure from society to conform.
James Carter, please follow me to room 4.
You will see a desperate longing in the faces of people who just want life to return to normal. They simply...
And this is why the scriptures say that there's going to be a day of tempting. Let's go to Revelation 3 and 10. Revelation 3 verse 10, it says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So this is going to put everybody to the test. All right, but the Lord is going to, he's going to bring his elect through it, where they're going to be given an escape. They're going to be tried, but the Lord's going to give them an escape, because the Lord's going to preserve them. All right, they're going to be cut out from society, but somehow they're going to still be able to eat. They're going to still be able to survive if you have the elect.
Want to be able to buy and sell freely. They want to work, socialize, and cling to whatever freedom they once had. The price to pay for this? A simple mark on the forehead or on the right hand. When the mark of the beast is introduced, every lukewarm Christian will become fervent followers of Christ as reality sets in that they are living through the tribulation. When the mark of the beast is introduced, you will see churches will be split down the middle. Pastors who once preached a sugar-coated gospel of comfort will fall silent.
Well, you already got, the ones that are sold out and compromised. They either barely touch on it or they don't talk about it at all. And when they do touch on it, they're going completely off. Because the scriptures warn that you're going to have hirelings that don't care about the flock, that don't care about the sheep. And they see what the system is doing. They see what's being rolled out, but they're not going to warn the sheep. Because they compromised, they sold out. So they have to be silent. The Isaiah 56 chapter, around the 10th verse on down. It talks about those dumb dogs who cannot bark, loving to slumber. It's because they got bought off, so they can't bark. And you're gonna have those that are paid to teach according to what the system requires. Because they under a certain statute of muzzle. They're probably gonna bring out Romans 13. Don't resist against the powers that be. Be compliant. Same way that they was telling you to trust the science back in 2020, 2021.
Closed under the weight of truth they never dared to speak.
I don't know what to say anymore.
Some will endorse the mark. Their deception will have no bound.
Yeah, ISUPK, they're going to endorse it like they endorse those jabs. I can see Captain Tazarian. We ain't no cowards. All right? Starting with my commanding general. We're not a coward. This is our new form of identification. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not the mark. We told you what the mark is. So go ahead and take it if you want to come to the next Passover. Or take it if you want to, if you need to get a job because you still need to, pay your fees, to come to these feasts. Or send your tithes to General Yohana. ISUPK, they're going to be in a pickle too. Because then they're going to be thinking about what Great Millstone been saying all these years. And how he's been trying to slowly come around, but he's still tiptoeing. He doesn't want to just flat out just tell them what it is. And keep tiptoeing if you want to.
They will call it a blessing, a new beginning.
This is a blessing, a new beginning.
They'll say,
God understands.
and many will follow blind and relieved to no longer feel the sting of conviction. But the remnant will.
There shall be false prophets among you, that shall bring in damnable heresies, false prophets and false teachers. The Lord said that shall, in the last days, false anointings and false prophets shall arise and deceive many. So those that endorse what this devil is rolling out, they're definitely part of the false prophet. The Catholic Church, the Pope, they all are going to endorse it.
Rise. Even during the tribulation, there will be some who will persist in living for Jesus Christ. You'll find them in basements, in forests, in abandoned buildings, whispering scripture.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Breaking bread like the early church once did. These will be the very people the Antichrist hates and seeks to destroy. The world will mock them. Screens will show their faces, branded as extremists, threats to national unity. News anchors will smile as they read off charges.
Tonight, another extremist has been identified.
And they'll probably use AI too. You know, I can see that happening, and they using AI, you know, deep fake technology to, you know, falsely accuse, you know, those who are going to be tried. You know, our faith is going to be put to the test. They're going to demonize. They're going to persecute. You know, why aren't we complying? Why aren't we being identified? Why are we refusing to come up under this system via the mark? And why are we not worshiping the image of the beast? You know, so we can clearly see that. They're going to be running all type of false narratives. You know, we're going to be remembering when Yahweh Shai said, okay, the servant is not greater than his master.
Unmarked, uncooperative, a danger to peace.
They'll be hunted not because they harm, but because they refuse to bow down to the man of lawlessness. When the mark of the beast is introduced, technology will become the enforcer.
Scan complete. Scan complete. No mark detected.
Drones, scanners, surveillance will be the eyes of the beast, watching from every angle. Your movements tracked, your choices logged, every purchase calculated.
Oh, let me get that script that I always like to go to. Job 13:27 in the NLT. And it says, you put my feet in stocks, you examine all my paths, you trace all my footprints. You know, and this is just part of this devil trying to be like the Most High. You know, that God complex. So, hey, as this devil's going to have his eyes on us, the Most High going to have his eyes on them. And they're going to be the ones that are in derision when the Lord deals with them. All right? Because the eyes of the Lord are in every place. All right? And they also beholding those who fear the Lord. And it says in Psalms 34 that the angels encamp around about those that fear him. And the angels are part of that. They are the eyes of the Heavenly Father. You know? So,
You will not.
I'm not going to play this whole video. It looks like it's a pretty long, lengthy simulation. But, hey, this is pretty accurate, you know? You can actually see this, you know, coming to pass.
Be able to hide in plain sight. The system will see you, and it will ask one question. Are you marked? Families will be torn. Fathers choosing survival.
Right, in other words, you got that implant. You know? Just like now, you got to, you know, show your ID. You got to, you know, you might have to pull out 2 forms of ID. Well, everything's going to be wrapped up in this device. And it's all going to be based on this global digital database. So, if you're not identified, they're going to know.
Mothers choosing safety. Children begging to be marked just to go back to school. And in that chaos, hearts will break. Love will be tested in a way no generation has ever known. Because when your faith costs you everything, you will find out if it was ever real to begin with. When the mark of the beast is introduced, comfort will become a currency of compromise.
And that's beautifully said, and that's why we say to detach and get ready to be uncomfortable. It tells you that in 2 Ezra 16, that mindset, you know, be ready, get you ready to the battle and be even as pilgrims. A traveler, somebody that doesn't have a place, a setting in this society. You know?
Like homeless.
Have that mindset that whatever you have now, you're going to ultimately lose it. But you're losing everything to gain eternal life. And some people, you know, they need tangibility to be comfortable. So a lot of people are going to display that they really don't have true faith. All these Christians that be coming up against us, they're going to show that they never had faith. It was all a facade, and they were deceived. And a lot of phony Israelites too that know that they Israel. That's why it's called the hour of temptation, man. Everybody's going to be put to the test.
Those who refuse, there will be no compromise, no middle ground, just a narrow road, a road that follows Christ.
Yeah, that follows Yahweh Shai. Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the way and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and that's the more comfortable way. These people, they're going to follow whatever is most convenient and comfortable for them. All right, just like they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. A lot of people adhere to teachers or prophets that teach the things that are most comfortable to them, things that are smooth. It coincides with their feelings and their emotions and their desires. That's who they're going to gravitate to.
A road that seeks eternity in heaven.
There's no going back. many villains.
All right, so I'm gonna end it right there. But you know, I thought this was a good display. You know, this is an AI generated narration, and you know, just the images, the visuals, and what's being said. You know, I think is on point. So I thought I'd do a quick response. But hey, you should know the prophecy. All right, Revelation 13:16 on down, and then the judgment when you read the following chapter. All right, anybody that worship the image and receive the mark, they're gonna be partakers of that fire, man, that torment. And then you're gonna have those who's gonna also, before that even happens, before the missiles hit, people are gonna be getting boils. They're gonna be getting you know, those grievous sores, and that's gonna be an indication of those who took it. All right. So, anyway, hopefully this is edifying. Give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And to the next one, Shalom.
Yep. And like everything else, though, you're going to find out who was on fire and who was playing around with it. So here we are, you know. It's right around the corner, as you know, that they are moving everything to that digital system. And, you know, it's getting to the point that a lot of places they're eliminating cashiers. You know, like I said, you know, Taco Bell is down to one cashier. But that cashier is not in the way that you think it is. You still have to go through a kiosk, and the person shows you how to operate the kiosk. I mean, if you're not user-friendly and you're not with it, that person helps you to become user-friendly. And if you are using cash, you have to wait after you've already made the order, after the person showed you how to make the order, and then say, yeah, I'm going to hand you cash. But that whole option is going to be eliminated very soon. See, they only have one drawer, and that person has to go in the back to go and get the cash for you, to give you your change. But now with the penny eliminated, they ran out to the nearest nickel. That's all going to change real soon. And eventually, you're just not even going to have the option for cash at all. You're going to have to convert. You're going to have to convert all your cash to the digital currency and your checks. You know, your SSI checks, your welfare checks is all going to be a digital dollar very soon. They're going to get rid of the old system. And they're going to have to prove each action as they gear towards the mandates. They're going to mandate everybody have a chip. That's where it's going. U.S. tariff rates to hit 15% or more for some nations under new strategy. The U.S. Trade Representative Greer said tariff rates will climb to 15% or more for the nations as the Trump administration conducts probes into unfair trade practices, which has always been the guise, after the Supreme Court ruling that invalidated parts of the previous tariff policy. So like everything else, though, you know, use Fox News, you know, to give you the scoop, you know, on Trump, you know, because they'll always back Trump. But, you know, hey, we're just trying to protect American jobs as they lie to you.
The good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated. Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement.
As President Trump discussing his tariff agenda last night during the State of the Union, the president reworked 10% global tariffs, taking effect for up to 150 days under the Section 122 of the Trade Act. The administration prepared a separate order to raise the rate to 15% while consulting partners and conducting investigations. The European Union, for example, is seeking clarity on next steps, urging Washington to honor last year's trade agreement. Joining me now, the man in charge of this U.S. Trade Representative, Jameson Greer, is here. Jameson, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Give us your reaction to the president's speech last night, and you say that the U.S. is standing by existing trade deals right now, correct?
That's exactly right. The president's speech highlighted this. He talked about all the economic wins for average Americans, and he talked about how we're doing our trade.
Oh yeah, everything's
with
great.
All our partners, just because we lost this case,
you get goods at a deep, reasonable rate because they want a fair trade.
To help them understand how the replacement.
Listen to them make him sound like he's glorious.
So let's talk about that, because I know you were ready for a potential negative ruling. We've talked about this over the last several months, and you told our audience that you had access to other authorities. Now you're talking about Section 122, and that has a 150-day bridge to Section 301 tariffs. Walk us through this.
That's right. So Section 122 is about the balance of payments deficit, which we're experiencing in a number of different categories. And then we have a couple of tools, Section 301, Section 232. So Section 301 allows Office of the United States Trade Representative to investigate unfair trade practices on a country-by-country basis. And we've identified a lot of these. This includes things like people who use forced labor in their supply chains, countries where there's industrial excess capacity, where they build and build and build even though there's no demand, and they end up flooding our markets. And so these we consider to be unfair trading practices. And there's a host of other things: discrimination against our digital tech companies, subsidies for rights.
Israeli state, you just heard it. Israel companies, Israeli state, and that's what this is all about, because like everything else, though, Gaza is the model for all your cities to become just like Gaza, to where pretty much so you're going to have to commerce using that identification device, because everybody's going to be identified, in this system, So pretty much so, they call it the small cities network, but everything's going to look like Gaza. Gaza's the model. And we said that before. We said that Babylon the Great will soon look like Gaza. Gaza's just a testing ground. But I believe this thing's going to be sped up, They're going to cause even more economic wars, pledge. And don't forget, we're still under a partial government shutdown, Don't forget about that. So like everything else, though, Trump continuing his threats. Trump threatens countries that would play games with tariffs. U.S. President Trump threatened higher tariffs on nations that play games after the Supreme Court blocked his global trade policies, Any country that wants to play games with the ridiculous Supreme Court decision, especially those that have ripped off the U.S. for years and even decades, will be met with a much higher tariff. So, that makes all goods much easier to get at the store. You can see the reduction in prices because these tariffs are fucking great. Does anybody really believe that bullshit? But that's bullshit. And these people that worship Trump, they eat it up, man. That Trump is doing everything great. He's wonderful. And he's the fucking greatest thing that ever fucking was. Is the Trump administration planning to use banks to enforce immigration laws? Here we go. Your bank accounts will be frozen. Your assets will be frozen. Or you got to have identification to verify. You've seen the beginning of this, right? In order to prove your identity, let me see your bank account. Let me look into your bank account to prove that you're a U.S. citizen. You see how this is going? You see where this is going? You see where cash is no longer king? That you have to have a bank account? I mean, how long have they been pushing direct deposit with your checks, right? That you must have direct deposit. You must have a bank. You see, gradualism. They gradually did that through the years. Okay, you can't just go to Winco, and turn in a coin, to get your check. They've been doing everything they can to get rid of cash altogether. President Trump's administration ramping up its assault. Gets so-called illegal, but the only one illegal here is Esau. By eyeing a bold new tactic, enlisting banks to verify citizenship of every customer. According to CNN, the banking industry is very alarmed by the potential action. This move was reported by Wall Street Journal saying banks currently don't prohibit non-citizens from opening accounts, allowing so-called illegals to stash funds siphoned from taxpayer-supported programs. So, pretty much so, let me see your bank account. And it's just new regulations on the bank account. You see where this is going. The Brits and French want Ukraine to go nuclear out of desperation to hold on to Donbas. So they want to give nuclear weapons. I mean, this is how insane it is. Russia's control over whether through Ukraine's withdrawal or forcible expulsion is considered to be the basis of the U.S. peace plan that the Brits and French are dangerously trying to subvert. So basically, they want Ukraine to have nuclear weapons as a deterrence, right? The alleged plan is to provide it with relevant European components and equipment that would then be misrepresented as a world-approved domestically developed nuclear program. They'll give it at least one actual warhead and or materials for a dirty bomb. Well, there you go. Give them a nuclear weapon. At least one. You see where this is going, right? But, like everything else, though, there is going to be a nuclear war. But we know what's going to draw them into a nuclear war. Especially when Damascus, Syria is destroyed. Whichever side does it, that's what starts the nuclear war. Israeli state launches multiple attacks against eastern Lebanon. The IDF claims that sites belong to Hezbollah elite Radwan force and had been used to store weapons. You know, that's what they always say. You know, so like everything else, though. However, claim that the presence of the building violated the ceasefire understands and that buildings pose a threat to the Israeli state. So, like everything else, though, nope, they didn't breach any ceasefire agreements. So, you know, however, often treat the very existence of Hezbollah as a de facto violation of understandings. Launching airstrikes against Lebanese territory, by contrast, definitely violates the very nature of a ceasefire. There is no ceasefire. There never has been, you know. But, you know, they try to make it sound like there was a ceasefire agreement. Yeah, there was an agreement. They didn't hold to it, but nobody's holding them accountable, right? And, of course, you know, meddling in political affairs, right? Because the U.S. controls Iraq. U.S. demands the Iraq in Maliki nomination by Friday. Iraq's coordination framework is still putting forward Maliki as a candidate for prime minister, despite President Trump loudly demanding that he be withdrawn. The U.S. is now reportedly setting a deadline of Friday, February 27th to end the candidacy or face unspecified repercussions. So, there we go. Possibly going to attack Iraq too. You know, so we know that he's a Shia, you know, and they have a war against Iran. I guess they plan to hit Iraq with it, you know, especially if he should be re-elected. It's a recurring theme in Iraq that after elections, forming a coalition government takes quite some time and a lot of negotiation. Come up with anyone even palatable to enough of the parties to form the government can be a challenge. So, like everything else, though, we know that Maliki is a former president, a former prime minister of Iraq, and the U.S. wants full control of it. Does that sound surprising? But, hey, you know, as this video goes into, they're ready to go full force in their terrorist attack against Iran. There we go. Ready to go with full-blown attack. Drums of war.
United States preparations to attack Iran are nearly complete, and indirect talks between the two sides are yet to produce any meaningful result. The U.S. military buildup in the Middle East reached a new peak over the past week. On February 20th, the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier and its strike group entered the Mediterranean Sea. The carrier, last seen near the Greek island of Crete, could join the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea in just a few days. On February 21st, it became known that the U.S. military deployed 6 E-3 Sentry airborne early warning and control aircraft at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, just one step away from Iran. A number of KC-135 Stratotankers, at least 4, were also deployed by the U.S. military at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport on February 23rd. Later, on February 25th, at least 11 F-22 Raptor stealth fighter jets were moved by the U.S. military from the United Kingdom to Ovda Air Base in southern Israel. This was a highly unusual move. Iran, from its side, has been also gearing up for war. On February 20th, it was reported that the Islamic Republic managed to reactivate its Russian-made S-300 long-range air defense systems at sites near the central cities of Tehran and Isfahan. And in a warning to the U.S., the ground forces of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on February 24th conducted drills in the southern part of the Islamic Republic and the Persian Gulf Islands. During the hybrid drills, Iranian troops test-fired a wide array of advanced weapons, from loitering munitions to anti-ship cruise missiles, heavy artillery rockets, and even tactical ballistic missiles. Amid these military preparations by both sides, conflicting reports came out from American media. While some reports suggested that the administration of President Donald Trump is close to launching limited strikes against Iran, others speculated that Washington is planning to overthrow the regime in Tehran with a weeks-long attack, even killing the Islamic Republic's supreme leader Ali Khamenei and his son Mujtaba. Meanwhile, Hebrew media reports indicate that top military brass from the U.S. and Israel have reportedly been in contact. Taking into account recent military deployments in Israel, a joint attack on the Islamic Republic seems the most likely scenario. Another round of indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran was held in Geneva on February 26th. However, no breakthrough was made, which means that war remains more likely.
So you can see that very much so as we head towards the Passover, that this war may be already happening or about to start during the Passover time, because that's coming up. Can the U.S. use ethnic conflict to break Iran from within? As Kurdish groups consolidate abroad, DC's pressure campaign may increasingly rely on domestic fractures. So, you know, like everything else, though, they want to use the Kurds' territory, which is in Iraq, you know, and of course, you know that they are the biggest launderers of terrorist groups like ISIS. So, yeah, and you know that the ISIS prisoners just went to the Kurdish territory. So, you know, they hold these ISIS terrorists as a means, you know. Getting them into Iran, well, you know that Mossad always has ways to get them in there. Amid escalating tensions surrounding Iran and the ongoing discussions about potential strikes by the U.S., the internal political situation of the Islamic Republic is becoming increasingly turbulent. Tehran's adversaries are considering not only direct military pressure, but also a mixed strategy of destabilization involving strikes combined with the activation of internal protest movements and ethnic political factors. This strategy implies minimizing the duration and scale of military operations, and instead of relying on internal pressure, in other words, external actions could serve as a trigger for internal process of the situation. Opposition forces, aka ISIS, etc., not just political ones in Iran, and even beyond its borders, particularly ethno-regional groups, might seize the opportunity to organize large-scale protests reminiscent of a color revolution. In this scenario, the focus shifts from a military defeat to undermining Iran's internal resilience. So they're considering that as well, you know, because like everything else, though, you know, the Kurds, they've been, you know, promised territory if they do this and they do that, and they still listen to the U.S. and the Israeli state on anything. But like everything else, though, you know, well, they've already said that the fort is about to hit the Israeli state, you know, to fill in and get ready for their attacks, you know, to launch their terror attacks against Iran, as this report goes into. Here we go.
We had a great conversation off the record at StuPeters.tv. If you're a supporter of the network, that's based. Thank you. I'm sure that you were involved with that conversation. If you're not yet a supporter, running a special right now through February, a couple of days left, $14 off an annual membership. But we were talking about Tucker Carlson, a little bit about Candace Owens, a lot of shade being thrown at Tucker Carlson. Even in the aftermath of his sit-down with the U.S. ambassador that acts more like an Israeli ambassador, Mike Huckabee, in Israel, Tucker Carlson is CIA. He's controlled opposition. He's paid and funded by Qatar. He's funded by the Jews. He's a subversive. He didn't have to do any of that. He completely exposed the entire Zionist world order when he sat there with Huckabee, who had a system failure, completely glitched. I'm not able to process what it is that you're saying. His screen went blank, 404, system error, update required, shutdown mandatory. Couldn't handle it. Tucker doesn't have to do that. He's set. He's got the money. He has the platform. There's really no reason that he had to go real hard at Huckabee. And here he is today, much respect to Tucker, doubling down as it relates to war with Iran. Because there is no benefit, there's no upside to America or to the American people in going to war with Iran. Your so-called elected representatives aren't even trying to do justification for this. We're just
but the least the flock shall draw them out.
Which is why there was a patriotic mutiny aboard the USS Gerald Ford, which we're told this is what the Trump administration is waiting on, is for the USS Gerald Ford to reach its destination.
Yep, they kept flushing the toilets.
Israel before Trump will order strikes into Iran, which he won't have to do unilaterally. He will, of course, gain congressional war powers approval because your entire occupied government is sold out, is compromised, has sold out the homeland, has sold out the soul of America for Israel. We're going to war for Israel. Tucker said that. He didn't have to say that. He's doubling down again today. And once you cross that Rubicon, just like Candace Owens did about a year ago, and actually it was me, it was this network that was credited by the New York Times for, quote, radicalizing Candace Owens. Stu Peters, the man who radicalized Candace Owens. I believe the ADL echoed that. I have my own page at adl.org. But these influencers, these people, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I've got nothing but respect for them. Are they perfect? No. Do I agree with everything that they say? Well, of course not. That's why we have open discourse. But on this issue, they have no motive. There's no upside. There's no benefit to them personally or professionally to start calling out this occupation, just like Charlie Kirk did and ended up dead. And it's no secret that Dan Bongino is actively trying to get Candace Owens killed right now. He left his post as the deputy director of the FBI, where prior to taking that position, he said that he was going to be most passionate about protecting Israel. Not child sex trafficking networks, not real criminals that are hurting Americans, but instead, he was passionate about protecting Israel. So he spent, 9 months there doing that, protecting a child trafficking syndicate, protecting the government, the Trump administration, and everyone else that's implicated in the military operation that took out Charlie Kirk. And now he's been reassigned, still on the federal payroll, but reassigned back to the Rumble war zone, to that battlefield, which you can look at the SEC filings for Rumble. It's no secret why he's there,
Stu Peters Network
and why he's pushed, and why he's undercover, doing all the time on the homepage of Rumble, because when you look at the SEC
God damn it, Salakia.
you will find Howard Lutnick as a major Rumble investor, and of course Dan Bongino that has over $100 million in Rumble stock. And he kept that, by the way, while he was the deputy director of the FBI, allegedly, purportedly serving Americans, which of course he wasn't.
Over the past couple of weeks, over the past stretch of days, that American action against Iran wouldn't begin until the USS Gerald Ford reached Israel. It's been sailing through the Mediterranean. We talked about the main point on board the ship, but it is making its way to Israel
for the interruption.
in the coming hours. And so we look like we're in the closing phase of the run-up and the build-up to an American action against Iran, of course, on behalf of Israel. And as all of this is happening, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, they're in Geneva. They're going through the motions. They're pretending to be negotiating with the Iranians. And we all know these negotiations have absolutely nothing to do with the United States. They're not even being directed from D.C. They're not even being directed from the White House. They're being directed by Benjamin Netanyahu. When Netanyahu came to D.C. just the other week, before he even met with Trump, he went for a closed-door meeting with Kushner and Witkoff and other Jewish members of the Trump administration, where they talked among themselves about the plan of action, where they talked among themselves about what was going to happen next and what they were going to use the United States and the United States military and the blood of American citizens to do in the Middle East. This has absolutely nothing to do with America. There's no benefit here for America, but the USS Gerald Ford, it's now closing in on Israel. And so we can expect, if there's going to be an attack on Iran in the near future, that it's going to happen very, very soon based off everything that we've gotten from the Trump administration. Now, there's also been a lot of talk surrounding this that Trump is trying to stave this off, and there's, the whole casting Trump as a good guy type of deal here. There are no good guys left in this situation. All of these people are under the complete and total control of a foreign nation state. All of these people have been bought out or compromised or both of those things. They're captured. That's what they are. This is a captured government. It's a captured government that's about to use, once again, American citizens as the battering ram on behalf of Israel. And Iran, it's a whole lot bigger than Iraq. It's a whole lot more populous than Iraq. Speaking of Tucker Carlson, he mentioned this on his show the other day. Iran is not, you're not dealing with Iraq here. This is a much different beast. It's a much different animal. And the United States is walking into something that could be
It's not some isolated backwater. It's a full-fledged BRICS member, and there is a military alliance just so much as there is an economic one.
Yep, this is a real country here. This isn't some, pariah state or some place that they can just paint as like, these are crazy people who just live out in caves and they're cavemen and we've got to go in and we've got to take them out. This is a real country. This is a real military. And when they shut down the Strait of Hormuz and they choke off the oil flow, Americans are going to immediately feel the consequences of what's happening. And then we're going to start to see body bags and flag-draped coffins coming back to the United States. And really, really quickly, the American people and the cost of this to the American people is going to be stacking up. But look, to move on here, but kind of stay in the same story, Witkoff and Kushner, they're juggling two things at once in Geneva because these guys, they're not just running point point on Iran. They're running points on all of the wars for the cabal. They're also having negotiations with the Ukrainians while they're in Geneva. So these guys are meeting with the Ukrainians, talking about what they're going to do next there, while at the very same time putting the finishing touches on the war in Iran. And I think it's really, really important that we keep in mind these people have to keep Russia engaged in some way. I mean, they want access to Russia. They want control of Russia. And so keeping that war in Ukraine going, keeping that new Khazarian front open, it benefits the very same cabal that's benefiting from the war in Iran. But look, speaking of a cabal, how about Hillary Clinton? This is a longtime member of that cabal, a longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein. And she gave testimony today, at least they called it testimony, to the House Oversight Committee. They finally agreed to meet, and then they go all the way up to her. They actually traveled to her in White Plains, New York, so that Hillary Clinton could sit down and say, I don't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know the guy. I don't remember meeting him. And everybody knows that it's a lie. And this is just a dog and pony show. And this is just Congress pretending to go through the motions as if they're actually investigating someone. They've had Hillary Clinton. Everybody's known about Hillary and Bill Clinton's relations with Jeffrey Epstein for years now. They were two of the original people who, when Jeffrey Epstein's name started entering the public consciousness, they were associated with Jeffrey Epstein. In 2016, everybody thought Trump was going to go up on stage at the debate and say, hey, Hillary, how about your husband's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? But he didn't do it because the entire time Donald Trump was clicked up with Jeffrey Epstein as well. All of these people roll together. Howard Lutnick, now he's Donald Trump's handler, admitting to taking his kids to Jeffrey Epstein's island. At that time, he was raising money for Hillary Clinton right next door to Jeffrey Epstein. So all of these people, they're all in bed together, and bringing the Clintons up there, that's just handing out red meat for the base. Actually, Hillary Clinton, interestingly enough, she called it the right thing when she was speaking to the media not long ago. She said they're using me as a shiny object to take the attention off of Trump, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're using her as a shiny object.
And it's working because you will have MAGAs out here saying, well, she's lying. We know all about her connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And then despite the fact that their hero, their savior, Donald Trump, is mentioned over 37,000 times, they'll say, well, it's a Democrat hoax. That's a lie. He's not mentioned. He's not implicated.
Yep, they bounce it back and forth. The Democrats are the bad guys. The Republicans are the bad guys. It's just this ping pong ball that goes back and forth while nobody goes to jail. No new investigations are open. They don't go searching for bodies on Trump National Golf Club or at Zorro Ranch. There's
been no arrests under Donald Trump, and nobody's going to go to jail under Donald Trump except for people like you and me.
Yep, exactly. Nothing ever happens.
And that'll bring in a famine of the word right there. You know, eventually you ain't going to be able to do videos like these anymore. You know, because we've exposed Esau on a regular level, but there is coming a famine of the word. You know, that's also going to come in the midst of everything. Then all hell's going to break loose, right? When we can no longer warn you, it's just going to come out. But you've been warned. You've been warned not to take the MOTB. You've also been warned, you know, about this devil Esau. I mean, if you still think that some Edomites are going to make it, or that, you know, you could still be a so-called Christian, that you could get in, that the Gentiles, you know, some are going to make it, you're sadly mistaken, because the next kingdom to come is going to be ruled by Israelites, mostly by Yahushua, and, amen, the heathen are not going to have any rule whatsoever in this next kingdom. Only the elect will, with Yahushua. Vance rules out prolonged war in region if U.S. strikes Iran. In other words, they're saying, oh, don't worry about all this propaganda that all these other places are going to come in the fight. You know, it's cool. We can attack Iran and there'll be no repercussions. So, you know, he's just saying, hey, look, man, you know, it's cool, man. You know, look at Iraq. You know, it's cool. You know, we can attack Iran and there's going to be no repercussions. They're just talking shit. That's basically what he's saying. U.S. Vice President Vance said on Thursday that a potential U.S. strike against Iran option by President Trump is unlikely to lead to a prolonged war in the region. Oh, well, the scriptures say otherwise. Vance, former U.S. Marine who served in the Iraq War, said, I think we prefer the diplomatic option, you know, which is basically, you know, that Iran surrender all of its missiles and has no defense whatsoever and just gives up all enriched uranium. Sounds like a deal, and then they won't be attacked. Yeah, Libya did that, and Libya got attacked. Iraq did it. Syria did it. They all were taken down by the cabal, by Israeli state. Meanwhile, Trump administration concluded a third round of U.S.-Iran talks on Thursday in Geneva. Iran's foreign minister Agashi said the latest round had been the most intense so far. You know, but like everything else, though, they'll just tell the people that, oh, you know, we couldn't come to a deal, so and they're telling the Israeli state to start the attack, by the way, you know, because that's what they did before. Trump advisors want Israeli state to attack Iran first to provoke Iran retaliation against U.S. assets. Senior advisors to President Trump prefer Israeli attacks against Iran to launch a war, thinking that if it starts the war and Iran retaliates against the U.S., the politics would be better for his administration. It would be easier to justify the war to the American people. Yep, that's what they'll probably do. They'll probably go with that. You know, because most people over here do not support a war against Iran, but if U.S. bases and everything else was attacked, but yet he put everybody in harm's way. You see, it's going to backfire at the end of the day. There's going to be a lot of blowback because they know that they just deployed all that. That's been all over the news. Trump administration failed to make a coherent case to the American people about why they are potentially planning to bomb Iran. Top officials have been pointing to Iran's nuclear program as a pretext, despite Trump's insistence that he obliterated the nuclear facilities that were hit last year in the June 2025 war. So he's got a lot of heavy explaining to do, but you know, hey. U.S. intelligence debunks Trump's claim of Iran working on ICBMs. So even his own administration is saying, look, man, they're not building ICBMs. They already had them anyways, but you know, they're not building nuclear weapons. U.S. intelligence does not support President Trump's claim that Iran is closer to fielding missiles capable of striking the U.S. Reuters reports casting fresh doubt on an alarming narrative that critics say is being used to manufacture the sport for war. Yet the claim formed central plank of his renewed public case for possible military action against the Islamic Republic. In his address, Trump told lawmakers that Tehran is working on missiles that will reach the U.S. without presenting evidence, referring to what it is technically known as ICBMs. Yeah, well, like everything else, Iran doesn't have to have those things. Russia has those things. He also alleged that Iran was rebuilding the nuclear program in which he claimed had been obliterated by the U.S. strikes in June last year. So basically, he's being found to be a liar. You know, and you already know the classic U.S. invasion of Iraq based on false WMD claims. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that Saddam Hussein was taken out, but there was no proof that he had any weapons of mass destruction, right? But that was the whole pretext. Oh, and that he had something to do with 9/11, remember that? And like everything else, though, you two-thirds are about to be put to death very soon. You know, that not only take the MOTB, but just pretty much have not taken heed to what we've been warning you about. You're about to get burned up, and you're about to feel the wrath of the Most High, you know, as 2 Ezra chapter 15 goes into. 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 22. I love this translation, the GNTD. I will use my power, and there will be no mercy for sinners. You know, aka, you know, those of you that directly defy the Most High who have been warned. I will put to death all who have murdered innocent people. You know, thus talking about Esau Edom. No Edomites are going to be safe from what's about to take place. You know, unlike those that say, oh, you know, some Edomites are going to make it into the kingdom. You know that that's a farce. Because this is the year of apostasy, and this is the year of sellouts. My anger has become so fierce that fire has blazed out to burn up the foundations of the earth and to burn up sinners like straw. And I was talking about the nuclear destruction. Sinners that do not keep my commands are doomed, says the Most High. I will have no mercy on them. Out of my sight, you rebels. Do not defile my holy temple, which is talking about, well, his elect. And, you know, because it's going to be, you know, this kingdom that's about to come is not going to have any two-thirds in it, you know. And the two-thirds are going to be exempt from the 1,000 years. See, they're going to be exempt from that. You know, they will come through the loins of us after the 1,000 years are up. But they're not going to be able to be partakers in the first resurrection. And that's all coming. The Most High Yahweh is aware of all those who sin against him, and he will hand them over to death and destruction. You know, which is not just the lake of fire, the nuclear war, but also other calamities coming up. Terrible disasters have already come upon the world, and there is no escape. You have sinned against the Most High, and He will not rescue you. And now you're seeing the build-up to the war. Then in the east you will suddenly see a fearsome sight. Arab armies and with many chariots will advance like dragons. As soon as they start out, the sound of their hissing will spread across the world and bring fear and trembling to everyone who hears it. Well, that doesn't sound like to me that it's just going to be limited strikes, and that these other places are just going to sit back while the U.S. attacks, the U.S. and the Israeli state attack. The Carmonians will come out of the forest in a fierce rage like wild boars advancing at full strength to attack the dragons. With their tusks they will tear up a large part of Assyria. So that's the Valley of Jehoshaphat, isn't it? But the dragons will unite their forces, regain their former strength, and win the victory. So, dragons is also talking about armies, right? Because remember, Magog's going to be leading that army. They will turn and pursue the wild boars, who will be thrown into panic, beaten into silence, and forced to turn and run. The wild boars will be ambushed in Syria, and one of them will be killed. This will bring fear and panic to their army and indecision to their kings. So like everything else though, you know that this war is right around the corner, but before this war breaks out fully, they will mandate that everybody have an identification device. That's what's coming. And I got one more here, you know, and the Most High, as you can tell, He's not concerned about the 2/3 that don't want to listen to Him. You already see what He's going to do to them. You know, just reiterating that with those last verses, you can tell that He's about to cast them down forever. And that's why we, the elect, are not concerned about the 2/3, because the Most High is going to make an example of them when they get burned up with the Edomites.
Shalom, good Lord, praise Yahweh, Shem Yahshua, Shem Kakudah, Shalom to 144,000 rest elect of this, Shalom to you all. I'm going to make this super short video. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video, We Are Only Concerned About the Elect, Not You 2/3 Clowns. So this is a video I put up 19 hours ago. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of 1 man is at the door, meaning getting ready to be fulfilled. So you can see 19 hours ago. So last night sometime. So this, you know, you got your comments, you know, shalom and so forth. Let me go read this one. This is the main comment that I'm dealing with. So let me, the social direct, I know what you are talking about. I seen that video. She said that because of the declining birth rate in the Edomite community, not because she was saying we are Israelites. Give me a second, let me go back to this video here. Okay. Let me come back over here. So I want to get into the main, this thing, I read this earlier, I was going to make a video on it. Anyway, this is put up by Zion, whatever, D9J6J, ROFL, whatever that means. 7 women is, listen to this. 7 women is Israel taking hold of God, Jesus Christ. Look to her, you clearly are in error and don't understand the scriptures. You have these all fooled, but we, the elect, know exactly what you are about. Puffed up, proud liar. There's more. Told you I'm not going to be long. 2 John verses 7:11 or 2:11. So this is our comment. Humility and wisdom. A man that's of the elect will never say they are, because no one knows yet. Hopeful elect. Of course we say hopeful elect. You're just a sad spirit. So this is this guy coming back, Zion, coming back to this one. Brother, you are supposed to be in Zion, in the kingdom now. You following these clowns. They are clueless. Revelation 14, 1 to 5. So now let me click on this guy. So I guess this guy has all the answers. So we can go to him now. Let's go follow this guy. Let's see what pops up. Okay. Mighty Great Lion 3. You don't see the guy's face. It says in Isaiah 30, they're going to see their teachers. Let me go. Do you have shorts? Okay, you just got latest videos, oldest videos. Okay, Jesus. The fact that he's calling him Jesus. Okay, I don't know what. I'm not going to play any of these videos. The way of the wicked is as drunkenness. Okay, let me see how many people you got. You got 252 videos. He started in 2025, recent. He got only 37 subscribers. So we're talking about 2025, that was last year. May is just around the corner, 2 months away when it hits March. Jesus is the only true God. So these, I don't know if he's a Christian, half Israelite, half Christian, whatever the case may be. But I'm looking at this weak ass, let me do this. No, I'm not going to do that. He will not come as a lamb, but a judge of the earth. For who? It's got a Christian spirit, the background there. Got that weak ass looking lion, tired looking lion. Got no teeth. Coming on our page talking shit. Let me see something. Let me put Edomites. Edomites. Judgment is upon Esau, Edom, Babylon. Call out Egypt, whatever. Fallen Babylon. I'm not going to watch any of this. But you can, people, we only deal with what we think who potentially might be one of the elect. That's it. Let me go ahead and check this. Let me see what's going on. Trump in total horror as Epstein teen evidence leaks. Redacted is live. Total chaos. The CIA, Mexican cartel PSYOP is fully unfolding in Mexico. Redacted news. So I might want to watch that. Yeah, the criminals are coming back. They're killing police. 2 deputies killed, 2 wounded, and shootout with career criminal in Missouri. And I guess he's the career criminal. Now Esau, when they go down, boy. They take as many bodies as they can take with them. And I guess he's still on the run. You're seeing what's going on. The whole world's waking up to these tiny tops. I got to watch this, and I'll try to watch the State of the Union to just for a laugh. You're gonna say this is the greatest economy ever. I'm the greatest president ever. This America's back. This guy is a complete and pathetic joke, an absolute joke. The ship is sinking. They got these U.S. naval men. They're tired. They've been out at sea. This is ship, whatever the ship was. It was in docked near Colombia for that Venezuela scenario, and now they're over there in the Middle East. So when you go on them ships, you're on them ships for months. These guys been on this particular ship for I want to try to find a video, for over a year, and they got the toilets stopped up. They're taking T-shirts and then putting it in the toilets to stop it up. People are getting sick. They don't want to fight. They're born to fight. Military, U.S. military men and women don't want to fight. Let me go see if I can find a video. Maybe I can't find it. If I can find it, I'll give it to you. I thought I had it in my I just had it. Anyway, I can't find it. I knew it was in my notifications, but the focus, as I don't got it. I'm preaching to the choir. The focus is prophecy, prophecy, prophecy. That's why I did a video entitled "Prophecy, Prophecy, Prophecy." The prophecies are coming to pass. The MOTB is right at the door. Matter of fact, it opened the door, is walking, stepping in. The one foot is in the door already. They're getting ready to take another step. They're going to be in the house. You don't have to sit down and put your right hand out. So anyway, shalom, on to the next.